What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Kofi Kingston, aka 1/3 of the New Day. You're not gonna say it with me, sir? Yeah, come on, you better participate. Let's try it again. 1/3 of the New Day, and you are watching The Young and the Wrestlers. Ha 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 ha.
Welcome to The Young and the Wrestlers, the Pop Culture's WWE podcast, the show that breaks down the soap opera nature of the WWE. Its storylines, its characters, you name it, we're chatting about it. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Betson, alongside...
It's a better comeback than Nia Jax. I'm Jem.
That is right. After like a month and a bit, like 5-6 weeks off, we are back. This is, as we said, our WWE podcast. It comes at you every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. on your podcast services, 9 a.m. on those YouTubes. If you want to join that wrestling conversation, you can. Head over to facebook.com/group/thepopculturist where you can join the thing. There's Twitters, there's the Instagrams, there's all the social medias there in the description down below. But if you want to join the conversation as it happens, head over to twitch.tv/thepopculturist where you can watch us record this show live. You can be in the chat. You can be like, oh, that's what I thought about the wrestling. And that's what we would like to hear. Now, if you want to support this wrestling pod, you can. Tell your friends, tell your family about the show. Go to your podcast service of choice, 5-star rating, written review. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. You can also support us financially. Patreon.com/thepopculturist, as well as our merchandise store, popculturist.com/shop, where you can buy shirts and other assorted shit with our logos on it. Jem! We're back.
We are. In the words of MVP, I'm coming. I'm excited. I'm so excited. It's been a while. A lot has happened for both of us in a small amount of time. But I'm excited to get back into the swing of things.
Yeah, man.
Some normalcy.
So just prior to Backlash, or I guess roundabout Backlash, both Jem and I were like, we need a break. So we, you know, after 50-something weeks of just non-stop wrestling conversation, maybe more than that actually. After like 100 episodes.
The 60-week mark. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a long ass time. So we decided to have a small time off. And plus wrestling as a whole was a bit of a dumpster fire there for a while. So for us, it's just like, we can't find good things to talk about wrestling right now. So let's bounce out and then we'll come back in a little bit. Yeah. And that little bit is right now. So today we're going to be talking about Extreme Rules, which aired last night.
Horror Show.
At Extreme Rules that happened last night at time of recording, but we have some catching up to do. Jem, what have you been up to in the last 5 to 6 weeks?
Well, a lot. First of all, I have NBN, so I can actually talk to the chat and see what's going on, and you can see me clearly, and there's no BS going on. You know, we've got my housemate's downstairs playing League while I'm recording this, and my housemate's streaming in the room next door.
Not even an issue, man.
Not even an issue. It's awesome. I finally got some mental health stuff sorted, so I am on the best path I possibly can be. I'm medicated properly. I'm seeing the right people. I'm honestly mentally and physically and financially for once in the best position I've ever been in. And yeah, other than that, I finished school today. Yay! So sans placement, because we can't do placement at the moment with the pandemic. I need 35 hours of clinical training, but I have a certificate 3 in pathology collection.
Congratulations.
Yay.
Claps to everyone.
So yeah, there's that. But yeah, other than that, I got a cat. I think you guys saw him just before we took our break, but I have a cat, which is exciting too.
Yeah, I think the cat was around prior to the break.
I think it was in the last episode or so. But yeah, that's about it for me. How about you? Not so Big Daddy Betson.
Yeah, not a whole lot's changed for me, because I said if everyone follows what we do here, there's no major changes. I'm still pushing through as normal, doing all the PlayStation content. But for those that may have been listening to this show, yeah, not much really. Still working. No, I've worked a whole lot. My weight loss journey is still continuing. As of right now, I've lost 19.7 kilos in total. So I'm this close to my midway goal of 20 kilos down.
Beautiful.
So that's pretty
inspiring.
amazing.
So many people. Your podcast last night was awesome with the man shake.
Thank you.
Plug that. Plug that.
Yeah, because I said that's I've been doing it. using the power of the man shake. You know, accidental plug there with the drink bottle. It came with my shakes today. So
no, that was awesome to watch you.
Yeah, so I
last night.
Yeah, so I guested on the Man Talk, which is a show with four of the big community members, including one of the big faces of the Man Shake, which is a gentleman by the name of Jerd. He lost 85 kilos last year using the Man Shake and a complete lifestyle change. And then you've got Tim, who's another streamer. That's Uber Timmy. He's lost 32. There's Ash, who's that fat guy. He's a good friend of mine. We met through the YouTubes. He has lost 35. Then there is
that
Lloyd.
not so fat guy.
Yeah, and then there's Lloyd, and I think he's around about the same. So there's quite a lot of weight loss with everyone, and they very kindly invited me onto the show last night. So
it's so good. It's still on Facebook. Check it out. Like my housemates watching last night as well. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you. That was very good. Oh, apart from that, I've got an anal fissure, and it fucking sucks. Sitting, standing, lying down, everything is just the absolute worst. I'm sitting on one of those big old butt donuts. Like, if you want to talk about what's happened, that's what's happened. I have a butt donut.
Love it.
Oh,
that's hot.
And that makes me be able to sit down for an entire podcast without wanting to vomit.
Speaking of vomiting, we should get into the show.
We should. As a
what a segue.
Yeah, actually beautiful segue. So this is WWE Extreme Rules. It took place last night. This is the pay-per-view where sometimes anything goes. There's a lot happened. Because like you said, we missed Backlash. Not a lot happened at Backlash. I didn't I've not watched any Raw or SmackDown between now and then. If anything,
I've seen bits and pieces, but
if anything, what got me back into some love of wrestling was me watching AEW's Fyter Fest. To be honest, that's what got me back, because I was like, and then I watched it and it's like, okay, yeah, I'm feeling it. And then we get to saw Jericho versus Orange Cassidy, and it was mint.
Oh, I need to watch that.
It was absolutely fantastic. Like, you know those things, you know when we've had those discussions, like, but like, can Orange go? Fuck, he can go.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
He can go. It was absolutely
I've seen some amazing matches from Orange Cassidy. If you get the chance, YouTube that guy. He is so much fun.
He's absolutely...
There was a match against Hornswoggle. Best thing ever.
But anyway, did you watch the pre-show for this?
I did not know.
Me either. But there was a match, Kevin Owens versus Buddy Murphy. Apparently it was mint, but you know. Oh, in the chat,
after this.
Good friend of the show, Dave Chataway in the chat. I come for the weight loss, but stay for those anal updates. That's right.
Updates.
If there's one thing that I do, I constantly talk about my butthole, and
yeah,
it's important to know, because like, it's a public service announcement. I'm just gonna put it out there. Respect your butthole, people. Be very kind to it.
Every joke.
It's incredible. Your butthole is incredibly important. You need to respect it. You need to treat it nicely, because when it's hurting, your whole world changes.
Ooh,
because you can't really just rest your butt.
No, your butt is one thing that you're supposed to rest on it. So if you don't take care of it, it's not doing its job.
Very tough. But Killer in the chat also adds, it's a Buddy Murphy match. You know it was good. Damn right. And same as Kevin Owens. They could, I was listening to Stephen Larson today, and as they said, like, they could deliver an awesome match in their sleep. So I may have to go back and watch that. The pay-per-view itself did kick off with the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match. It was the New Day versus the New Day versus Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro.
The New Day had some new artwork, which was cute.
Yeah, so their artwork has them holding like their 8 times championships. So which was fantastic. This was a tables match. Now the story built up to this, I'm not quite sure what it was, obviously, because we've been away for the better part of like a month or so. But one thing that was noticed, they were sans Sami Zayn. So
yes,
yeah, we may have touched upon this back in the day, but so Sami is currently stuck in the Canada. He was forced to relinquish his Intercontinental Championship, which then got involved in a tournament, which was then won by AJ Styles in an absolute ripper match. Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Which was then AJ defended against the week after in a new up of Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle, new call-up.
Yes.
Either way, minor sidetrack. SmackDown tag team titles, tables match.
Mm-hmm. So the only way to win is to put your opponent through a table. No tags, no rules, no nothing. Just opponents through the table.
Yep, through tables is the answer.
I believe the lead up was Shinsuke and Cesaro had challenged the New Day for the titles, and because they all got carried away, there was a double disqualification. So obviously inconclusive match result. So this is what has brought this to this.
Yeah, so there was an image going around last week of Shinsuke and Cesaro holding the titles ringside.
Holding the belts.
That was which is due to the double disqualifications. They were holding the belt, and as you said, usually a bad sign. However, not the case here, as they did come out the victors. Because we don't have a lot of storyline here to break down, Jem. Let's just do stand-up classic review and reactions. What do you think of the match?
It was a good match. It did not go the way I'd expected. I mean, with the New Day having the belt since April, I was expecting them to hold them a bit longer. But it was kind of awesome how it happened. Like Cesaro was up in the top corner with Kofi on him. Shinsuke's helping him out and just drops him through 2 sets of tables. It was nice. It was really nice.
I would agree. It was actually quite an incredible match overall. I really enjoyed. So the Big E and Kofi were coming in with a lot of energy, a lot of like oomph. There was no real slowdown from them. There was
and there was a lot of Kofi like, I don't want to do this, but you're making me do this.
Yeah, it was actually it was really good to see them sort of go hard. And obviously Cesaro was brilliant. Nakamura, even though we don't really like his character as much, he himself is brilliant. And it was just overall it was fantastic.
Yeah, I did love the little touch of Cesaro like rubbing it in Michael Cole's face, like putting in the belt in front of him, like, see, you talk down about us all the time, but who are the champions now, Michael Cole? Like. And this came after Kofi Kingston and Big E were throwing their clothes at Corey Graves. So it's just nice that they've got that interaction there as well. Yeah. I've honestly missed Michael Cole more than I expected to.
Yeah. No, I feel
love that guy. I love him. I do. He has my heart.
But there were some remarkable spots throughout where there were so Big E and Kofi were in each corner, and Shinsuke and Cesaro were doing like trading essentially like knee strikes and uppercuts, which was fantastic. There was some great little counters, but as you said, the finish did go to Cesaro, as he had Kofi hanging from his neck, in reverse, running in knee strike by Shin. Hold Kofi up, drop him through a double stack table, Dudley style on the side. Beautiful. Which it did follow, wrestling math. Kofi and Big E did set up that table, therefore they were gonna go through it, and they did. Yeah.
Beautiful though. Regardless of the result, it was a bit of a surprise to me, but I loved it.
See, awesome. I would agree. Coming into this, I did have some ideas of where I thought this was going to go. Even though we've had that time away from wrestling, so we're not super up to date on the stories. But I was like, okay, I have an idea of where I thought I had an idea of where they were going. So the next pay-per-view coming up is SummerSlam. SummerSlam is huge. We now know that over on the NXT side of things have changed. Adam Cole is no longer the NXT champion. It is now in the hands of Keith Lee. Keith Lee is both he is
DOS strapping.
DOS strap. bask in his glory of double belts because he is the NXT champion as well as the North American champion over there. And the tag titles are also not in the hands of Undisputed. What's your joke?
Oh, I was going to say, you could say Keith Lee is pretty beltly.
That's right. As Malcho says in the chat, Keith! So he's rocking the two belts now. The Imperium have the NXT Tag Team Championship. So
interesting.
Undisputed have nothing.
Io Shirai is the women's NXT
and she's
champion?
fucking fantastic. If you go and watch the NXT in your house from like X amount of weeks ago.
Oh,
great.
I saw that. Beautiful.
Oh, so good. But yes, so they've got no belts right now.
Mm-hmm.
Last I heard from old Dirt Sheet Dash was that the Undisputed Era were making their way up. So SummerSlam seems like the perfect place. And what sounds better to me personally than the Undisputed Era? So we're talking obviously Adam Cole. I think Adam Cole will still continue to get a singles push as well as being part of the stable. So Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong versus Big E, Kofi Kingston, and a returning Xavier Woods. That was my prediction.
They did have they still have the decals on the back of their outfits saying get well soon for Xavier.
So his injury was expected to be about 9 months, and that was in October of last year. So we're approaching 10, 11 months at this point. So it would be reasonable that he may be looking at making his return if everything's going well, which presumably it has. You know, he did have a torn Achilles tendon while doing the WWE Live tour here in Australia, which we won't be getting this year. It's been postponed to next year, which is disappointing because we're not going to be able to see Becky Lynch now that she's all like super fucking pregnant.
I know, because she's mummy Lynch.
God damn, break my heart. But yes, so that was my prediction. I thought New Day would retain to then have Undisputed Era come in. However, I think it's more likely that Undisputed will get the win over whatever the Artist Collective or Nakamura and Shin. And it keeps, if anything, it keeps New Day looking good to become that next rivalry for the Undisputed Era. Because like the Usos are out with one. I think Jay's out for like 9 months from injury. Pardon me. The Forgotten Sons are straight up forgotten. They've been essentially written off television. There's not a lot of teams right now at SmackDown.
The Forgotten Sons.
Exactly. So Jimmy out, Jay is fine. Sorry, I got them mixed up. They look the same. So one of them is injured because they're twins. So that's what I was expecting. However, I think having Shin and Cesaro win here can still allow that to happen. But they're both exceptional workers, so whatever happens, it's gonna be good. So because we know that SummerSlam is August 23 or August 24th here in Australia. So we've got a couple of weeks until that. What do you think of that, Jem? Undisputed Era making their way to Maine.
I'd love it. I'd absolutely love it. Like we've been saying for months that the WWE is really in a lackluster on the main rosters as far as tag team goes, especially having 2 belts across the 2 brands. It's a tricky one. But I definitely think it's much needed, well overdue.
I personally think it would be pretty grand.
Yeah.
All right, now I've lost my notes. So that where are we?
Yeah,
next up was
this.
So next up, we're just going in order of the show. It makes things easier. SmackDown Women's Championship, Nikki Cross versus Bayley. So Nikki Cross getting an opportunity after winning a fatal 4-way match on SmackDown. Boy, did I go into this wanting fucking Nikki to win.
Oh, especially after they had that little thing at the start with like Alexa Bliss, Kairi Sane and Asuka giving Nikki that pep talk. They're like, say like, this is my night. And like, it was super cute, especially when like Kairi is like, and if you lose, we're still your friends. It's just like, and like just the look on Asuka and Alexa, they're like, and let's go.
Yeah, sure.
It was a bit cute.
So of course, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, especially considering, obviously, Asuka and Kairi have been seen as the bad guys for so long. Seeing them in that light was actually kind of cute. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, so they've recently made a bit of a turn back into the sort of the face space in the past couple weeks, which is certainly awesome because I think, you know, Asuka has that charm, so does Kairi. They bounce off each other nicely, and especially within the current empty arena era.
Do both well, so well.
Yeah, that empty era arena, they're kind of that upbeat feel is what we're wanting. And when you've got the likes of Sasha Banks and Bayley being kick butt heels right now, you don't want to muddy that water. You want to keep them going hard. So, of course, they with Bayley in this match, Sasha was ringside. Alexa was ringside for Nikki as well.
Well, result was that thanks to Sasha Banks handing Bayley her boss knuckle dusters, Bayley got a rib blow into Nikki Cross, which took the wind out of her so Bayley could get the pin for the win. So typical Bayley style dirty win, but she did retain her title, which obviously Nikki was devastated about, and I was devastated about for her. That was heartbreaking. But my God, it was a hell of a match. Like, it was so good. Like, at one point, like, Nikki Cross was stuck in the apron on one side of the mat, and then all of a sudden, like, the camera cuts to Bayley, and Bayley's doing something, and then you hear Sasha scream, and Nikki Cross is up the other side. I was like, that's just beautiful, like, beautiful little Nikki Cross touches. But the match itself was phenomenal. Like, it was way better than I was anticipating.
Yeah, so like Nikki did bring that enthusiasm that we know her for, that sort of that eagerness and that sort of crazy sort of setup. So she came in with this real hard drive, which I really liked.
Oh yeah, she was her night.
Yeah, there's quite a number of awesome sequences there where sort of as the bell rings, Nikki just goes ham straight away. She's right in there, ready to go. There is a moment where she gets like almost three crossbodies off the top rope. You know, great set. A lot of good pin attempts. Much
power.
So yeah, Nikki certainly. My desired result was to Nikki retain. However, I did have a feeling that she wasn't going to. But I didn't expect a dirty finish. That was interesting. But to your point, with the sort of the kerfuffle around the apron, that was perfect. Sort of disrespect. Tactics, heeledness from Bayley, because that's Nikki's move. Get him in the apron, boost him up. That's 100% her thing. But instead went the other way.
Nikki capitalized on it.
Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. But yeah, so there was that dirty win there from Sasha, providing the boss thing, getting that punch. And you said understand when Nikki was devastated. But as I was saying, this is where I thought this was going to go. I think that Bayley is really getting some good upward momentum right now. She's really doubling down in terms of her character and her story. And since obtaining the tag team championship, that's kind of added a little bit more to her. In terms of her confidence and her demeanor and her strength within the women's division.
Like, I love that she plays with it too. Like, I love that, like, when they were coming out and, like, people were, like, booing her and Sasha Bayley was, like, rubbing her belt like this up against the glass. Like, I love that she's just, like, she just gives no shits now. And this is the best version of Bayley. As much as I hate Bayley and her dirty tactics now, this is the best version of Bayley. Although, I did go back and watch that title match in NXT against Bayley and Sasha, and holy shit. Like, they brutalized each other. Like, Bayley was vicious, and she's showing that viciousness again, and I love that.
Like, for me, like, in terms of Bayley, like, there was something that I couldn't quite get on board with, and I wasn't feeling it. Like, when she's sitting there hurling insults and calling, like, "Oh, you big idiot," and I'm like, that doesn't feel harsh enough. It doesn't feel enough. But then watching AEW recently and seeing those exact same threats and insults coming out of the mouth of Chris Jericho, I'm like, I get it. So she's channeling sort of that Jericho style of heel. And then I suddenly got it. I understood its nuance, and then I got that. I'm like, no, I get it now, and that completely.
You understood that you just made the list.
Yeah, it turned me around, and I loved it. And especially after chatting, but prior to the break, chatting to good friend of the show, Josh Robinson, who sort of broke down Bayley for me. It did also assist in that realigning of where she sits within the women's roster and why she deserves to be the longest running SmackDown Women's Champion right now. And
100%.
you know, if we were going to look at this from a story perspective, as we do here. If Nikki was to win, I wouldn't. I can't imagine her having a long title reign. I don't see it happening.
Mm-mm.
I'd see her losing it within like a month. Not even. It's like nothing wrong with Nikki. Nikki's great, but I also think there's a number of women in the division that would do better. Where Bayley is showing nothing but kicking ass right now. Like she's going from strength to strength.
Yeah.
Comparatively. Which I love.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, there we go. Beautiful. SmackDown Women's Championship retains. Next up, United States Championship match, but not really. So Apollo Crews, who has not been seen in the last number of weeks on Raw, had essentially had to forfeit this match, which had MVP, who his competitor, come out and proceed to win by forfeit, and he is now the United States Championship.
Which is not the case because Apollo Crews does have champion's advantage, which means even though he cannot compete, he still retains his title.
But if he's unable to defend, though, that might be a little bit different. Because especially with Sami Zayn also having to forfeit his Intercontinental Championship because he was unable to defend it. Maybe Apollo Crews is in that same momentum. Like they're not explaining why he was able to had to forfeit. No,
they did. Apparently, he's got a bulging disc from that full Nelson that Bobby Lashley put on him a month ago.
If he's injured and unable to defend that belt, then he must forfeit.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it's a tricky one because they said it was just the pre-match physical that he failed. They haven't said that in general he can't compete at all. It was just that individual match. So it's a little grey area. Yeah, it's hard to say. MVP thinks, but I'm pretty sure in that situation, it doesn't just get handed over. I'm pretty sure you'd have to do some sort of tournament, or there has to be some way that MVP has to take that title.
So vacate the title instead of just
it'll be vacated, not just hand over. Yeah, which I think is going to come out.
One thing we have to discuss, Jem, because in our time away, the United States Championship has changed.
Changed hands, yeah. Apollo Crews had it.
Not to change hands, it's changed its complete redesign.
Oh yeah.
It went from the old sort of road sign look to this new gold with an eagle and possibly a dick in the middle. America. What do you think of the redesign, Jem?
Don't care for it. I honestly forgot that it had happened. Oops. Nah, it looks very... As much as I don't really want to say it, it looks like a massive piss take of Cody Rhodes' neck tattoo.
I disagree with that.
It looks it looks like they're trying to take the piss of that whole American dream type look, with the bird and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. I think they're just calm down, WWE. Your white supremacy is showing.
Yeah, I think you might be reading into a little bit too much there. Because I don't think it's that. Would that be that? Because if they're going to do an entire belt despite another promotion, it's not beyond the WWE's history. But I don't see that being the case. I would say it is just more of a. They've gone the more traditional America, right? Which is the bald eagle and fucking flag and all that sort of crap. Oh, and also Mad Dog's in the chat and Christian plays. Mad Dog says, "Well, if it ain't my two fave pop culturists, there's only 5 of us, so it's pretty easy to pick your favorite." Now we got some. So I joined Mad Dog over the weekend for a 2K prediction stream, and boy, did we get some predictions wrong. Let me tell you. But yeah, so the new design, for me, it's just more of your standard America. I don't like it. I think it could have been designed better.
As Mad Dog says, the wiener belt.
Well, because I was one that pointed out it's got a cock on it, and then now Mad Dog can't see it. Can't not see it.
Can't unsee it, yeah.
Can't unsee it. Now, the thing when I first saw it, my observation was there's too much gold. And I think that's what I don't like about it. However, but then you look over at like you look over at the AEW Championship, which is littered with gold, or the standard big belt. You know, that the big old school WWE Championship. It's the big gold belt. I'm like, okay, maybe it's not the gold thing. Maybe it's the poor design. And let us know in the chat what you think of the United States
That's true.
Championship design.
I know a way Mad Dog can unsee it.
What's that?
An eye for an eye match.
Oh
yeah, segue.
That's fine.
I'm getting worse at these.
You are in fact getting worse. But that's all right. So before we jump into that though, just to sort of hang on the title to give our chat a nice moment to put their thoughts on the championship redesign in the chat. So you think this Apollo Crews is still technically the owner of the belt here? If not, it's going to be vacated.
If it's going to be vacated, it's going to be vacated. It's not going to be forfeit to somebody else. It's going to be vacated, and like they did with Sami Zayn's belt in the tournament, I think they should do the same thing. I agree with Christian. I don't want MVP to have the belt. I think, look, MVP is doing great as a hype man, but as a superstar himself, he just needs to take that back seat.
Yeah, I don't feel for MVP like at all. Like he doesn't do it.
I used to love him. Not so much anymore.
Yeah, no, I'm not feeling it at all. But as you said, let's jump into the next match. This is the big gimmick match of the night. It is the Seth Rollins, Rey Mysterio, an eye for an eye match. So a number of weeks ago, when Becky announced her pregnancy, Seth Rollins didn't take it too well apparently, proceeded to jam Rey Mysterio's eye into a step.
Right into the ring.
Into the ring steps.
Right into the corner.
Then, over the upcoming weeks, they've been building up, and that builds up to this match. So it is an eye versus eye, an eye for an eye match, first of its kind, where the only way to win is to remove your opponent's eye. Now, Christian plays in the chat, he goes, I didn't like one match on the card, and it was this one.
Yeah.
So, what I found interesting
I enjoyed
here...
it.
Was it, sorry?
I enjoyed it.
The wrestling was brilliant. The wrestling was absolutely fantastic. Yeah. However,
the concept was stupid,
there's something
but the match
I need to
great.
address here.
Yes.
Remember the controversy last year of Hell in a Cell, where apparently in a Hell in a Cell match where anything goes, apparently it was a little too much for Seth Rollins to hit Bray Wyatt with a hammer through a toolbox, through two ladders and some chairs.
Yes.
However, literally scooping someone's eye out is totally okay and not assault or what's the word I'm looking for? Like battery. Like this is like hardcore intent to hurt someone.
Yeah. This is
from a kayfabe
assault with
story
the intention. Yeah. The insult with the intention to cause grievous bodily harm.
Yeah, it's grievous bodily harm. That's what I wanted. Yeah.
It's a felony. It is against the law to do these things.
Yeah, but apparently
you can't hit somebody
with
a hammer.
Yeah, hit someone with a hammer through a bunch of other things. That's a problem. Literally pulling a dude's eye out. Bit fucked.
Not bad.
Mad Dog, don't get me started on this match. Christian plays, I like it then. I don't like it with Seth. So I think Christian likes the gimmick, but doesn't like it with Seth, which is interesting. But let's get into this. So look, in terms of a match, I thought it was brilliant. I thought Seth brought the goods. Ray brought the goods. I really enjoyed it.
Just showing up, like no entrance, just straight behind Seth Rollins to just start the match. Beautiful.
Yeah, he's like surprise cockface, and then proceeded to just
exactly it. I love Seth Rollins with the super fluffy beard and the new Masonic music and just, I don't know, there's something about this Jesus persona look that he's going for now. Like, Seth and that beard, damn. I was never attracted to Seth Rollins until I watched this. I don't know what it was. I mean, I think for what it was, the match did go on a little bit long. And yeah, ultimately it did end up with, so Ray obviously had an eye patch from his previous injury, which he ripped off. And stupidly, because Seth Rollins capitalized on that and assumably took Ray's eye out.
Yeah, so with a pre-injured eye, Seth cranks it into the stair once again. Ray's there, rolling in pain, in agony, and then
screaming, "I need a doctor."
We get a small glance between his glove of a literal eye hanging out of his face, and that was it. Ding, ding, ding. End of the match. Seth Rollins.
Dominic comes running out.
Yeah, and medical staff come running out, and then his eyes hang out of his face. The doctor's like, "Just breathe, man, just breathe." I'm like. Once again,
the worst thing you can do is freak out because you'll go into shock.
True.
Like you need to remain
once again,
calm.
this show, kayfabe's real. So we that's how we treat it. So, like his eyeballs hanging outside of his head. He's like, "Oh, just breathe, man." It's like, yeah, it's true, but like whatever. But what I really liked here, so what we saw here was Seth Rollins have a minor moment of remorse,
weakness.
or at least a realization on the actions that he has done.
Mm-hmm.
So while getting the glimpse of a literal man's eye out of its body, he is shocked. He is shaken. He stumbles back. He even fucking vomits.
He vomits. Beautiful touch. Just bleh. Like you could see, he was just like, "Oh God, what did I do?" But at the same time, like, everybody started booing him, and he hightailed it out. Like, holy shit, what have I done? I think. I don't know. It's a tricky one here because later on they obviously talk to Charlie Caruso and they say that like Ray's eye is still intact and if there's no nerve damage and no vessel damage, he'll still be able to keep his sight and stuff, which was good to hear. There's a chance that he's going to still be able to see. It was, I don't know. I feel like the lead up to it for me, just from the videos that I saw, I didn't even watch any of the lead up. The lead up was more interesting to me than the match was.
Yeah.
I think I am gunning to see Dominic in the ring, and we're seeing him more and more. Like he attacked, like in the videos, he attacked Seth over the weeks and stuff like that. I think every match I see with Ray now, I'm just hoping Dominic is going to come and take over.
The original prediction that I made that I made with Mad Dog on that stream with Mad Dog was that it would be more likely that we would this would be a non-ending. Like we wouldn't get a resolution on this match. It would be barbaric for them to literally remove someone's eye. That Dominic
apparently not.
Apparently not. That Dominic would instead sacrifice himself, saying, "Look, I'll join." Like, because the whole pitch right now is get Dominic to join my side. So we're like, Dominic goes, "Fine, I'll join your side," and then he becomes part of it. And then a little bit later,
breaks it down from the inside.
Breaks it down from the inside. And then we also had the idea that there would be a moment of passing of a mask, which we thought would be amazing as well, which would be very sweet.
Yeah.
But, kayfabe removal. If you wanted to, sell someone that's lost an eye, quote unquote, who's going to be the best to do it? A dude that wears a mask.
The only person. Yeah. And not just that, he wears contact lenses as well. So with the kayfabe up, he was wearing a mesh-colored contact lens, which gives the illusion of having a white eye, but you can still see out of it.
Yeah, like the Spider-Man trick.
Yeah, but I love that touch too. It's like the little things that Rey Mysterio does makes it worth it. Like having that eye patch on and taking it off and having that eye underneath. It's just, even with a mask on, Rey performs.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. And I love seeing him, but I definitely think we are in the stage of he needs to pass the torch now. Being a 15-ish minute match or maybe a little bit longer, he just can't keep up like Seth can.
Yes.
But he did a damn good job. I'll give him that. He did awesome.
Yeah, because with the original, the idea that I had in my head was that that he would lose an eye, and then he would have to be without an eye. So that would force him to retire, because I think he's close, or if not, he should. This may be it. So with that retirement comes, in time, Hall of Fame, because he 100% deserves it, for whatever the Hall of Fame means.
Oh, of course.
But he can also attend the Hall of Fame with an eye patch on his mask.
Yeah.
Where Seth Rollins can't lose an eye because he's not going anywhere. He's not going to wear an eye patch forever. And it's not, what happens if one day he decides to not wear it and his eye's in there? And it's like, is it going to be like Kane when Kane takes off his mask? It's like, you're not fucking burnt at all.
Yeah.
Like, oh, no, he thought he was burnt. Like, no, that's dumb.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in the chat,
Trauma.
Christian jumps back on the vomiting again, and he mentions that the vomiting is what the thing he didn't like. See, I disagree. I think that was a
beautiful
it was
touch.
a great touch in terms of adding a minor touch to Seth Rollins in terms of, as you said, the humanity. Like, especially when you come off the back of playing like The Last of Us or something recently, which is a very violent game. It's all about it's all about the struggle of violence and how that affects someone. So what we've seen here is with someone, be in that adrenaline, be in that fight or flight. They then do the violent act, and then they go, "Oh, well, fuck, what have I done?" Once they've had that realization, the adrenaline dies down, and they start analyzing and understanding what they've done. It's like,
yeah.
Oh,
What have I done? What is this going to do to them?
Yeah.
That's disgusting. But
yeah.
Like,
I myself have never seen something and gone, oh, but like, that is a response. That is a natural response. I've not seen some dude's eyes hanging out in front of me.
I have in school.
I'm sure. What?
Yeah, in primary school, a kid copped a rock to the face and took their eye out. Yeah, blood everywhere. Disgusting.
Did you vom?
Yeah, I did. I had to go to the bathrooms, but I was like, but
See? Further proof. Seth Rollins did exactly what you'd expect to happen.
And that's the thing, is like, Seth has been playing this like big, bold, scary, like I am Jesus type character, but it also brings an extra level to him that I think he's been missing for a couple of months. And I loved it. I honestly loved it. The fact that he ran away, clearly feeling guilty for what he'd done and being chastised by the crowd, was just too much for him and he had to bail. It really does. It gives that whole new level to Seth Rollins, and I love that. Absolutely love it.
And from here on, I think there's two ways that this can go. Because we haven't seen Raw yet. If you want our Raw review, that is tomorrow. There's two ways this can go. Either he is going to double down and become more of a piece of shit, or he's going to have that change of heart. I personally seeing him double down.
I think he's going to go harder. Yeah. He's going to be like, I don't like this feeling. I need to eliminate it.
Yeah, so it's that sensation of this violence. This was a means to an end. Like, yes, it's horrible. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but it was a means to this end that I have.
Happen.
It had to happen to get to this goal.
He is a martyr. It has to happen in the name of all that is holy. So yes, Christian, Seth is the winner. He did win the match by technicality.
Technically,
Yeah.
But next, speaking of wins that are kind of a little bit iffy, Raw Women's Championship match. Sasha Banks, accompanied by Bayley, versus Asuka, accompanied by Kairi.
Yeah. So before the match, there was a little interview with Bayley.
Yeah. So
very small one.
The match does end with Sasha winning ? So what happens is Bayley gets in to try to cause a distraction, gets kicked in the face. Asuka comes off to the side. Kairi provides her the green mist. Stands up, goes to blast Sasha in the face. Sasha ducks, blows out the ref. Bayley comes in, takes the jumper, takes the ref shirt. Sasha gets the punch on. Boom. 1, 2, 3. Bayley hits Asuka with the belt. 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
As countered by Bayley, might I add.
Yeah, so because the referee was incapacitated, Bayley rips off his shirt, puts it on, 1, 2, 3, runs off, steals the belt, and takes Sasha with her. And Asuka's obviously distraught, like, that's my title. And I am inclined to agree with her. Much like the MVP thing, I think that Asuka is still the champion.
Yeah, and I would agree completely.
Yeah, because there was no sanctioning of Bayley being the official. She just put on the shirt. There's no, as to be expected,
Yeah, this isn't the 24/7 championship here, ladies and gentlemen. This is...
Yeah, exactly it. So it's not something, you can just chuck a t-shirt on somebody and they're suddenly a referee. I think Granted, we haven't seen Raw yet. I think it needs to be addressed. I do not believe that Sasha should be the Raw Women's Championship.
I agree.
The
I
sanctioned referee was not.
And I imagine that she isn't. I don't see her being the champion here. The match itself was great. Sasha took some mean bumps in this. It was brilliant.
Some of those German suplexes were like, oof, is her neck just blown out? Like,
but there were some subtle little touches as well that I really liked. Is when she went to do it like from the second rope, but kind of stumbles, goes and fell down. And there was a moment that, because I was watching it with friend of the show, Craig from the Mullet Show, and we both went, "Oh, did she just fucking fall or get injured? That was all work." I'm like, oh shit! Well done, Sasha. That was amazing.
Because
that was all to allow for Bayley to get the distraction. It was incredibly well orchestrated.
Yeah, it really was. And I was, concerned too until I realized what was going on. Much like Mad Dog, I was, like mentioned, Byron Saxton was going off, and I was going off right with him about it all.
And I love that Joe's like, who counts?
No. But regardless of that, like, Sasha and Asuka as competitors, beautiful matchup. I went back and watched some stuff from NXT and them fighting there as well. And, Asuka, like, they mentioned the whole, like, everybody talks about Sasha, Bayley, Becky, and and Charlotte. But what about Asuka? Asuka's she's been just as crucial to the women's revolution as they have, which I agree entirely. Like, Asuka brings a whole new level of competition, regardless of what side she's on.
Undefeated in NXT.
Yeah, exactly it. Undefeated in NXT. I think there's a lot more underneath all of this that needs to be unpacked. But, Asuka always has been and always will be my champion. Y'all know this. I love her. So I am fuming and I want something done about it.
So, this is not where I thought it was going to go. My prediction around this was that I still think we were heading towards Bayley versus Sasha at SummerSlam. So I was expecting that maybe Bayley would interfere and cost Sasha her opportunity to be Sasha Two Belts or whatever she wants to call herself.
What is it? Two Belts Banks.
Yeah, because we've got Bayley Dos Straps, which made me laugh really hard.
Yeah. And Two Belts Banks.
Yeah, Two Belts Banks, yeah. So, I didn't... Like, technically, she didn't win, but that's how she left with the two belts. It's a weird situation because that's not how I saw it going, like, even remotely.
No. No, not at all, which was a nice surprise. I love being caught off guard.
Yeah, but I do like both Sasha and Bayley being a massive dominant force over both brands here. Because they were also dominant forces.
One thing we didn't see was when they took the belts.
Yeah.
They are the women's tag team champions.
Yeah, and then they went and defended that on NXT, and Sasha had a match against Io Shirai, and like the two of them are just destroying the roster. On all shows. Exactly it is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. But I do imagine that, because once again, as I said, we haven't watched Raw yet. I do imagine that in Raw they will address it. We'll talk about that tomorrow night.
Killer did mention earlier the Io Sasha match and how great it was. Yeah,
so I imagine they will address the situation around the belts, especially around the Women's Championship. And I imagine I'd like to think there is a rematch, or maybe they'll make a call and be like, nah, she won it. But I don't see that happening. But one of the things I saw a lot on Twitter about this match specifically was that apparently it's like super Attitude Era. You know what I mean? Like, this seems like an Attitude Era sort of heel swerve, which is...
Yeah.
Having not what...
Yeah, which is...
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Now that you mention it, it is very reminiscent of the old, like, Eddie Guerrero days where he'd, like, falsify an ending just to make it go in his favor.
Yeah.
Definitely feels very much like that. And you know how you were talking about the concept of Bayley, like, screwing Sasha over? I think it almost happened. But they were able to, like, rectify that situation, which was interesting to watch as well. Because for a moment there, I was like, oh, God, like, Bayley's going to cost her this.
Hey, it could still happen. That turn could still happen. It could
still happen. Yeah, I think, I don't know, their relationship is is a very interesting one, and the fact that it's got us on edge is like it's keeping me engaged in it. Granted, we had a break. Now I'm back with fresh eyes, and I'm just like, yeah, I get it now.
Speaking of fresh, next up we have the WWE Championship match: Drew McIntyre versus Dolph Ziggler. Now, Dolph Ziggler, a SmackDown competitor. Apparently, the brands don't matter anymore. A lot's happened. A lot's happened in our 6 weeks away. So Dolph is on Raw. I think it may be a situation of Drew put out an open challenge and Dolph's like, I'll take it. The background here around this is that Dolph helped the return of Drew McIntyre back in the day.
After he was fired,
this is 2018, I guess, 2017, around about there. So with that return, they were a tag team for a while. They were brilliant. They were Raw Tag Team champions for a while. And then they went separate paths at a Hell in a Cell match, I believe, in 2018. And that's where they kind of split and went their different ways. So Dolph's claim here was that he's owed a title shot because
Dolph never earns anything. It's owed to him.
Yeah, remember, it should have been me.
It should have been him. I mean, in this situation,
remember that was the whole Kofi, his whole storyline with Kofi.
I love the consistency of it, though. The consistency of it should have been Dolph. Honestly, I'm starting to agree. Because Dolph, honestly, has been the longest consistent competitor out of all of them. And I'm starting to feel a little bit for Dolph Ziggler. Like, you know what, babe? It should have been you.
Yeah.
But in saying that, Dolph is amazing, regardless of his title reigns and stuff like that. Like, the more I watch him, the more I love him because he is so damn good.
Mad Dog has added the update here. Both Dolph and Bobby Roode were traded over for AJ Styles. So when AJ Styles went over for the Intercontinental Championship tournament, there was then gone over as a part of a free trade. As like trade value. Then
outside of
then obviously
because they're still doing that. They're doing the trading throughout.
Yeah, and the powers be at Raw decided to take Dolph at the tag team with Dolph and Rudolph.
And I like that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. That makes more sense than the open challenge that I took from what I saw.
Yeah. But no, I love that there's a backstory here, and it kind of is starting to feel a bit like, it should have been you, Dolph. Like you deserve that opportunity. And Drew McIntyre's like, sure, like you name the stipulations. Let's do it your way. So when you lose, it's on you.
Yeah. So with this being the Extremes Rule pay-per-view, there has to be an Extremes Rule match. And this was it. However, as the contracts were signed prior to the stipulations being named, Dolph Ziggler had the announcement, that it was going to be a Extreme Rules match for Dolph only.
Only. Yes. So Drew McIntyre had to compete as a normal sanctioned match where there was no rules for Dolph.
With Drew, there were no tables, no
anything outside of
no
a
count outs
match,
aside from apart from pinfall or submission. But the idea that if any of those if any of those were to happen, the belt would go to Dolph.
Yeah, I loved this, to be honest. It was a really damn good match. There were so many instances where I was like, oh shit, like Dolph's gonna steal that. But much to my surprise, out of nowhere with a sneaky claymore, Drew just laid Dolph out for 3.
Yeah.
Beautifully. And like the frustration and anger in Dolph, and like the entire time I was just like, hey, like you did this, you lost, like you had everything in your favor and you still fucked it. Like at the same time I was like, oh,
what I really enjoyed from this was just the psychology of the match. So with Ziggler being able to do whatever he wants, it constantly had Drew on his toes. He had to be very cautious on what he was doing. Like if he happened to go a little bit too deep into his beatdown on the ringside, he had to bounce out. And like he had Ziggler in his hands, but he's like crap, and he had to get back in for the count out. Or even, he had to be very careful of where he threw Dolph, because if he threw him into a table, surprise, that's the DQ. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Or if he throws him into a chair, or he bumps him with a chair. Say like Dolph threw because what happened? Dolph went to swing a chair. Drew caught it. Drew had no choice but to throw that chair away. Otherwise, that's the DQ. He loses the championship.
And you see the contemplation in his face too, like, oh shit, fuck.
Yeah, and then coming from that as well, Dolph was incredibly smart in his moves. He was targeting the power.
A dumb guy.
Yeah, he was targeting the leg that is primary in the Claymore kick, right? Targeting the leg, targeting his arms, like targeting all the major strong points of Drew. So Drew is already frustrated. He's being hurt. He's losing his key moves here. Dolph came into this very smart. So as you said at the end, to sort of have Drew down and out after 2 zigzags, 2 famouses, I'm like, this has got to be it. But not pop up, 1, 2, 3. That's the pop up 3, boot in the face, 1, 2, 3. There it is. That pop up Claymore boy did, because that's how watching with Craig.
Damn!
Craig and I went, oh fuck! It was an actual oh fuck moment. It was great.
Okay, can we just lift the K-Babe for 2 seconds? When they did the slow-mo on that, they chose the wrong angle because they showed the slow-mo as he hits his leg. But I was just about to say that crack was perfect because not only was the timing, but the loudness of it just made it that more effective that I kind of didn't care that we saw that slow-mo because I was like, it was effective.
Yeah, I didn't have an issue with it at all.
No, but just... I forget how fast Drew McIntyre is.
Yeah.
And you see him just like, bam, bam. You're like, what? Like, okay, Roadrunner. Like, take it easy. It was... Honestly, it was a great match. I was really impressed with it. Both Dolph and Drew McIntyre are amazing competitors. So, I was happy with the outcome. I was happy with the match overall. I absolutely loved it.
I enjoyed it. It went exactly as predicted. I didn't think Drew was going to take it here. It was a situation of me going like, Dolph, really? Okay. But once we learned the stipulation and we saw that was going, once I saw that's right. Like once I saw that, I'm like, this is going to be interesting at least. And it certainly was that, which was cool.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was probably like my second favorite match on the card for sure.
What was your first?
It was a lucky last match of the night.
Oh, all right. Bring it in, Jem. Explain it to the peeps.
So, for those who don't know, many moons ago, Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman were in a little faction called the Wyatt family. Basically, Bray controlled Braun for X amount of time. Now, Bray has popped up and he's been taunting Braun. Just the mind games that have gone back and forth between the two of them. Obviously, nobody knows Bray better than Braun. So he's been playing mind games just as much as Bray had. And they decided to take this match home and have a Wyatt family swamp match. So they went back to the swamp where it all began to end it all. Now, this was called the Horror of Extreme Rules.
The horror show at Extreme Rules, yeah. Yeah,
so there was, throughout the show, there was like Firefly Funhouse with Braun, with Bray, sorry. Like dressed up as a zombie, like as a mad doctor, I guess.
He was kind of like a Dracula sort of feel, yeah.
Yeah, which was really interesting. I loved that. And I wrote in my notes, Firefly Funhouse, but make it horror, which was great. but yeah, there was like one little thing where like Braun's like, Bray was like, I'm going to show you the scariest video in the WWE. And it cuts to a couple of weeks ago when Jey Uso was like, our first ever karaoke showdown. And I had a bit of a laugh at that. And then he's like, and then Bray's like going off at Randall.
But I love it how like, the filter goes off. He's like, I know what you're doing, dude.
Yeah, that's not funny.
It's not funny. And then he turns and it goes back to the black and white filter. He's like, whoa.
Yeah, he's like weird.
That I really
and
enjoyed.
then like during the match, it cuts into that and he's cheering on Braun Strowman. Like, if he can't do it, no one can.
Yeah.
It was very fever dream, much like that John Cena match, the Firefly Funhouse match, which I loved. It was nothing less than I expected. There was weird cuts and 1 minute, like, Braun Strowman's knocking himself out, and the next minute he's chained down while Bray is taunting him, and the next minute they're fighting in the swamp. Like, it was so cool. So it's one of those matches that you can't explain. You just have to go.
It really wasn't a match. It was one of those cinematic matches, but it was certainly not a match.
It was like a fever dream more than anything.
Yeah.
Like the John Cena match.
Yes, yeah.
Like
so unlike, spot on. So unlike the Firefly Funhouse match at WrestleMania this year, it's hard to tell who's the winner here.
Yes.
You know, like even Undertaker, which we should also announce, Undertaker retired in the time that we were away. After his last ride documentary. You know, shout out to The Undertaker.
Yeah, but with that, like, it was interesting, especially because at the end of it, like, Braun Strowman's like, he's standing in the thing and he's like, it's over. And then, out of nowhere, Mandible Claw comes flying up and drags him under. And then at the end, we just see the Fiend come up on the little pier, just laughing, which was amazing because that gives me the implication that the Fiend has taken another soul. First John Cena, now Braun Strowman. Because the entire time that, like, Braun's like, I'm going to destroy you to the old Bray Wyatt, he's like, you can't. I'm already dead. Like, I don't know. There was just something very, like, horror show about it that I actually loved. And I have to agree with Solus here in saying that they should embrace Alexa Bliss as the Sister Abigail type. Because they did have that whole thing there with Alexa Bliss being like, come home.
So they threw back to this minor storyline during the Mixed Match Challenge of 2018 where... where like there was a possible love interest between Alexa and Braun, and that was played into here by Alexa being like, "Come in, come be with me,
come home. We can be together. We can have it the way you want it." Like, and that was really cool. I love that touch as well. It's just that little thing, and then as he goes to her, Bray Wyatt just comes out of nowhere and attacks Braun. And there was that random dude that he was fighting that caught on fire and stuff like that. There was just so much going on.
So in the chat, Christian Plays does ask the question, so did Bray win? Well, I guess with him standing tall at the end, yes. But I have a feeling this match wasn't a win or lose setup. Like, because of that cinematic style, there wasn't going to be a definitive winner or loser here.
And same with the Firefly Funhouse match. And you know what? I love these matches from Bray.
This was all about story.
And that's what I love about it is it's building the character of Bray Wyatt and the Fiend so much bigger. This is beyond my wildest dreams for this character, like for Bray Wyatt and for the Fiend. Like, this is way beyond anything I could have imagined. I was expecting big things, and I am getting more than I bargained for, and I love it.
Yeah.
The mystery, like, who won? What's going on? Like, what's going to happen next? Like, every minute I was, like, hook, line, and sinker. Like, I was engaged.
I see this as the nail, like, it's the ending of that, the Eater of Worlds. I see that as, this is done, that's gone. That we're not going to see that version of Bray Wyatt anymore. We've moved past that.
Yeah. Essentially, he drowned, and that's why the Fiend.
And then the Fiend comes up. So the Fiend has consumed not another person, but another part of Bray. So the Fiend is slowly taking over more and more. And what I was originally hoping here that we would see, because we're talking about predictions, because Christian's talking about predictions in the chat. For me, the prediction here was that we would see a situation where both Bray and Braun are next to each other or near each other. Like there's a separation of the characters here. You know, like that's what I was hoping to see. But that didn't in fact tend to be the case. But that's fine, you know. But from what I'm seeing, because the whole coming into this was Braun going, I need to defeat Bray now. I need to defeat him before the Fiend returns.
Yes.
So we're reasonable. I think you're spot on. I think it's reasonable for us to think that the Braun versus Bray will happen again for the title at SummerSlam, with to be Fiend versus Braun Strowman. Because right now he's taking on Bray, he's taking on Eater of Worlds Bray, and then he'll be taking on the Fiend.
Which I think was really, really fun to see the Eater of Worlds Bray Wyatt. There was just that nostalgia of it. Which I loved. I absolutely loved. Look, I have to agree with Kilobyte a little bit here.
What does he mention?
That he was a bit...
So
he's surprised to see Alexa Bliss and thinking that, Liv Morgan was teased a while ago, so why not her?
That's true. So to add a bit of background to that, previously, around about the return of Liv Morgan, there was a lot of rumor that she, in fact, would be the new Sister Abigail coming into Bray's story, but that appeared to not be the case. So I do agree with him here as well. Would have been cool, but I think Liv's off and away for a reason. I think she might be hurt.
Yeah.
So maybe she.
But no, I think Alexa more than anything makes sense just for the
at least the story of it,
because they do have that. Yeah, they do have that background. Is what I was trying to say. Yeah, there's that background to them in that respect. So I think it just worked really well.
And it also adds to this beautiful part of what Bray Wyatt does, and that is pull from story, pull from history, and like the mixed match challenge.
He's an amazing story.
Many people kind of dismiss that, especially like because it wasn't really a thing. It was like kind of this side thing. But Bray has been like, no, that's still part of it. If as weird as it is, that's still part of this history. And like especially when we look at the Firefly Funhouse match, where that is entirely built on pulling from history. This match is about pulling from history and telling stories with that history.
And that's the thing, is like the new Bray Wyatt is comparable to like a Mr. Rogers type character who tells stories. He's a storyteller. I agree, Osiris. Alexa was a better choice for the Mindfuck Braun. But yeah, I think it's just playing perfectly into the Firefly Funhouse. Like, here's that storyteller character. He's the Mr. Rogers of the WWE. He's telling stories. And I love it. I honestly cannot fault... Initially, I was a bit hazy, but at this point, I cannot fault Bray Wyatt. Every day am more and more engaged in this guy.
But yes, so that does bring us to the end of this pay-per-view, however. And to add to your point there, Jem, as we discuss our final thoughts of the show overall, speaking of stories, I really feel that this pay-per-view was... Most pay-per-views tend to be full stops on stories. I felt the Extreme Rules here was all about pushing them forward and keeping them going.
Yeah, it was like the action
So what we saw here weren't full stops. Apart, like, because I imagine we're gonna get Dolphin and Drew again. Braun and Bray aren't tidy. Sasha and Bayley. So Sasha when Asuka isn't done, and Bayley's involvement there as well. The tag. I said with my predictions of what's going to happen with the SmackDown tag teams. This is just a stepping stone on a greater story. Every match that we saw here, especially with and Seth and the potential changes that come with it, these are all added steps to a journey. And for us that love our story in wrestling, I'm pretty happy with this show.
Yeah, pay-per-views don't have to be the end of the story. They can push a continuation if done correctly, and I feel like Extreme Rules this year was done correctly.
Yeah, so the 100% of some problems here, and like there's always problems in a pay-per-view. It's never not always. Like some are perfect, but it's all subjective. And for me, and what I want to get out of WWE specifically, like if I want like fucking awesome ass wrestling, I'm watching AEW. But when I want bizarre, weird stories, I come here. And we got that.
Yeah.
We got the continuation of Bray. We got weird, like, sneaky heel stuff that, like, you know, endings that aren't definitive. That is heading down that line for me. So, overall, I was reasonably happy with it.
And it keeps me engaged. Coming back after that lull, initially I was a bit like, I don't know. But overall, once it all came together, I was over the moon and I am engaged again. I am ready to watch more and see what's happening next.
Yeah, and I agree.
Yeah.
And then we'll be back tomorrow night, or tomorrow, depending. We'll just say tomorrow on your podcast services on the Twitch, talking about Raw. Hopefully, we'll have some more answers around some of the questions that we had here. But as we said, that does wrap up the show here. Thank you, Jem, for joining me once again. Thank you, everyone, for coming back after a 5-6 week break. We took some time away. Yes, Jem?
Don't forget to rate it.
Oh, of course. How would you rate this pay-per-view, Jem, using our not so patented Kurt Angle, because he looks like a thumb, system?
Yeah. I'd have to say it wasn't the best. It wasn't the worst. I think I'd probably call it straight down the middle and give it a full Kurt.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like, it
was a good comeback.
I would say it's a Kurt.
Great.
I wouldn't call it a Kurt in a bar, and it's certainly not two Kurts, but I'm inclined to
Kurt
go.
and H, maybe?
No, because the negative doesn't mean yeah. So I'd give it a Kurt. I'll go right down the middle as well. I think that's probably the best response for it. There, as I said, without having those kill, like, it depends on how you look at it. From movement of story, awesome. Matches themselves, they're pretty alright. Like there could have been some improvements there, but overall, a Kurt.
Yeah, definitely. I was pleasantly surprised by some of the endings, so
that's right.
No complaints.
But that was our WWE the Horror Show at SummerSlam reactions and impressions. Thank you everyone for joining us. As I said, especially after that time away, we much appreciate it. We are very happy to be back. It's been we've refreshed, we're recharged, and we are ready to return to wrestling. If you want to join that wrestling conversation, you can at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, our Facebook group. All those descriptions are in the link below, or the description in the area. If you want to support the show, you can share the conversation. You can tell your friends, you can tell your family about this wrestling pod. You can go to your podcast service of choice, 5-star rating, written review, or if you're watching us on YouTube, you can like, subscribe, and maybe even ring that notification bell. If you want to support us financially, you can at patreon.com/thepopculturist, or you can buy our merchandise at popculturist.com/shop, where you can buy shirts and masks, apparently, and all that assorted shit with our logos on it. Look, if we can do anything, well, like everybody else, we can profit on this fucking pandemic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can wear our merch on your
I saw
on
the
your
John.
face.
I did see somebody in the crowd with a John Cena "You Can't See Me" mask, and I was like, I need that.
Yeah, they even WWE is selling masks, because if anything, they will always make money off something.
Yeah.
But until we come back to talk Raw, I'm Ryan Betson.
And I'm Jem.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's good to be back. See you all very, very soon.
Bye.
The Young and the Restless, the Pop Culturist WWE podcast, is fan support over at Patreon at patreon.com/thepopculturist. And we'd like to thank our Patreon producers and our Patreon founders for their kindness, their support, and their generosity. Our Patreon founders: Alpha Ferret, Craig O'Flaherty, David Chataway, Jesse Stevenson, and Jacob Garner. And our Patreon producers: AJ Abatomi, Damian Holdies, Kyle Dunn, Lee Wintershoven, Nathan Massetti, Paul James, Pure Mongrel, and Sean Levitt.